For decades, Canadian tourists have been a cornerstone of the U.S. tourism economy, especially in states close to the border or popular with snowbirds. They contributed billions of dollars annually, supporting hotels, restaurants, retail, and local businesses. But in 2025, this long-standing flow of Canadian visitors is rapidly shrinking. Several factors are driving the decline: stricter border controls, economic uncertainty, changing travel preferences, and lingering effects from pandemic-era restrictions. The impact is widespread, but especially severe in certain states that relied heavily on Canadian tourism. Today, we'll look at the top 10 states hardest hit by the decline in Canadian tourists and what it means for their economies. Vermont. Vermont is known for its picturesque small towns, world-famous maple syrup, and charming ski resorts. Many of these attractions once counted heavily on Canadian visitors from Quebec, who would drive across the border to enjoy Vermont's outdoor experiences and quaint hospitality. Towns like Newport and Darbyline, located near the Canadian border, have seen a steep drop in visitors. This decline isn't just a matter of fewer tourists at ski lodges. It impacts local artisans, family-owned inns, and specialty shops that rely on Canadian shoppers. In winter, the reduction in Canadian skiers has led to quieter slopes and reduced revenue for ski-related businesses. Meanwhile, local farmers markets and craft fairs report fewer sales as the cross-border buyers have become rare. Vermont's economy is heavily dependent on these visitors, and the sudden drop is forcing many small businesses to reconsider how they operate and market themselves. Maine. Like Vermont, Maine has long benefited from its proximity to Canada. Border cities such as Calais and Houlton act as gateways for Quebec residents who come for seafood festivals, shopping, and coastal scenery. Maine's lobster industry, in particular, felt the pinch as fewer Canadian tourists visited lobster shacks and seaside restaurants. The famous Acadia National Park, a top destination for nature lovers from Canada, has reported decreased visitor numbers this season. Retail outlets and outlet malls near the border, which often saw an influx of Canadian shoppers taking advantage of U.S. prices, have experienced a sharp drop in sales. Business owners say that while some Canadian visitors are still crossing, the numbers are down by nearly 30% compared to pre-2020 levels. The ripple effect means less income for hospitality workers, reduced hours for seasonal employees, and fewer tourism-related taxes for local governments. Otavo, Arizona. Arizona's warm climate makes it a haven for Canadian snowbirds escaping harsh winters. Cities like Mesa, Yuma, and Phoenix have traditionally seen thousands of Canadians renting homes, staying in RV parks, and spending money on golf courses and outdoor activities. However, the pandemic and subsequent travel restrictions disrupted these seasonal migrations, and 2025 has not yet seen a full recovery. Many Canadian retirees have opted to stay closer to home due to health concerns or shifting preferences for shorter trips. This has led to lower occupancy rates in RV parks and fewer bookings in golf resorts and vacation rentals. Local businesses, from diners to golf pro shops, are feeling the impact. Arizona's economy benefits not just from tourism dollars, but from the year-round spending of Canadian residents who often own property or return regularly. With fewer Canadian visitors, the economic losses add up quickly. 7th, Washington. Northern Washington has a unique relationship with British Columbia. Crossings at Peace Arch and Sumas are major conduits for Canadian shoppers and tourists who visit to take advantage of sales, entertainment, and dining options. Bellingham, in particular, has long been a shopping destination for Vancouver residents. But in 2025, border crossings are down significantly due to ongoing travel uncertainties and stricter customs procedures. The result is quieter malls, less business for local gas stations, and reduced foot traffic in restaurants. The retail and hospitality industries in this region depend heavily on Canadian shoppers, and many are reporting losses approaching 25%. The decline also impacts local employment, with some stores forced to reduce hours or cut jobs during what used to be their busiest seasons. 6th, Michigan. Michigan shares one of the longest borders with Canada, and cities like Sault Ste. Marie and Port Huron have traditionally been weekend getaways for Ontario residents. The local economy thrives on cross-border tourism with small motels, fishing lodges, casinos, and family restaurants depending on Ontario visitors. This year, however, weekend trips are down sharply. Seasonal motels that once booked solid are seeing empty rooms, and fishing guides report fewer clients. The casino industry in places like Detroit and near the border has also been affected, as fewer Canadian gamblers cross the border. With less Canadian business, many small towns have experienced a drop in local tax revenue, which in turn affects public services. The reduced tourism has forced some business owners to seek alternative markets or cut costs, which slows economic recovery in these areas. Cinquem, Texas. While Texas may not border Canada, it has long been a popular destination for Canadian tourists and seasonal visitors. Cities such as Austin, San Antonio, and Houston attract Canadians for their cultural attractions, warm weather, and entertainment options. Snowbirds renting homes or staying in RV parks in South Texas have declined, leading to lower occupancy rates in key areas. Hotels report fewer long-term Canadian stays, and tourist attractions are seeing fewer Canadian visitors than in previous years. The drop affects everything from car rentals to restaurants, and local economies are starting to feel the strain. Canadian travelers also tend to spend heavily on dining and shopping, so their absence has a disproportionate impact on service industries. Texas tourism boards are working on campaigns to attract domestic and international visitors to fill the gap, but replacing the Canadian market will take time. 4. New York. Upstate New York is famous for its natural beauty and attractions like Niagara Falls and the Adirondacks. These areas have historically attracted a large number of Canadian tourists, who contribute significantly to local revenue. Many small towns rely on Canadians for seasonal business, including lodging, dining, and retail sales. But in 2025, the numbers are down. Niagara Falls, which once welcomed millions of Canadian visitors crossing by bridge, is experiencing fewer international tourists overall. Lake George and other vacation spots report early closures and fewer reservations. This has led to layoffs and reduced hours for seasonal workers. The decline in Canadian tourists also reduces state and local tax collections, forcing some municipalities to rethink budgets. The impact is not limited to just tourism. Local artisans, farmers, and event organizers who rely on tourist crowds are struggling to stay afloat. 3rd, Nevada. Las Vegas is a global tourist hotspot, and Canadian visitors have long been a key demographic for casinos, hotels, and entertainment venues. In recent years, Canadian flights to Las Vegas increased steadily, but in 2025, the trend has reversed. Flight bookings from Canadian cities are down significantly, partly due to economic concerns and travel restrictions. The Strip is reporting lower foot traffic, and many casinos are experiencing revenue drops. Restaurants and entertainment shows that relied on Canadian tourists are seeing fewer customers. This decrease has a ripple effect on jobs and ancillary businesses such as taxi services, retail shops, and hotels. While Las Vegas still attracts millions of tourists from around the world, the loss of the Canadian market creates a noticeable gap in revenue and visitor diversity. 2nd, California. California's appeal as a tourist destination is undeniable, with cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Napa Valley drawing millions of visitors every year. Canadians are a major part of that mix, coming for the weather, cultural experiences, and luxury shopping. However, in 2025, Canadian visits to California have declined sharply. Travel agencies report cancellations and fewer package bookings, while hotels and resorts are seeing lower occupancy from Canadian travelers. This affects high-end retail, dining, and entertainment sectors. The impact is especially felt in regions like Napa Valley, where wine tourism has traditionally depended on affluent Canadian visitors. With fewer Canadians traveling, some businesses have had to scale back operations or offer discounts, which affects profitability. California tourism boards are actively working to diversify their visitor base, but the loss of Canadian tourists remains a significant challenge. 1st, Florida. Florida is by far the hardest hit state. It has been the #1 destination for Canadian tourists and snowbirds for decades, with over 3 million Canadian visits annually before the recent declines. Cities like Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale attract Canadian families, retirees, and vacationers. The theme parks in Orlando, including Disney World and Universal Studios, have reported fewer Canadian visitors this year. Snowbird communities in South Florida have also seen a steep drop in Canadian residents who normally spend months escaping cold winters. Resorts, car rentals, and restaurants all report a significant downturn. The economic impact is profound, as many local jobs and small businesses depend on Canadian tourism. Some businesses have closed permanently, and others are struggling to attract new customers from other regions. Florida's tourism industry is working hard to recover, but replacing this lost Canadian market will be difficult in the short term. The decline in Canadian tourism is reshaping the economic landscape of these 10 states in 2025. From border towns to major cities, the impact is clear and severe. These states depended on a steady flow of Canadian visitors for years, and now they must adapt to a new reality. Whether through marketing efforts aimed at other international visitors, expanding domestic tourism, or diversifying their economies, the challenge is enormous. What happens next will determine not only the future of local businesses, but also the broader health of the U.S. tourism sector. For now, the Canadian tourist slowdown remains a cautionary tale and a call for innovation in the travel and hospitality industries.